Okay, so here we are. We've got a test today, or actually it's going to start today through Sunday for Bio 1140, which is Biology for Health-Related Sciences. So what we're going to do is going to go over any questions you guys might have prior to for this test. Now, right now, I haven't actually gotten very many emails about any questions. So what I'm going to do just make sure everybody remembers to review for this test in terms of, okay, you need to know what the different types of bonds are. You need to know those functional groups. And just memorize them. It's easier that way, even though this is, a test is online, you might think, might just look things up, but you definitely want to make sure that you understand that material. I've also posted a lot of material online, and including a bunch of questions for you to practice with. I would work on practicing those questions because when you go take the test, you're going to have one pass and that's it. You're not going to be able to backtrack or anything like that once the test gets started. So let's see if we got any questions. You guys are welcome to hit me up here on the live chat. You can go for it. But I've also gotten some good questions on the pack back assignments. So I'm going to go over those really quick until I actually get a couple of questions coming in. So one of them was, why are electrolytes of importance to the body? Like plants crave electrolytes. Well, so do us. And electrolytes include things like sodium, potassium, chlorine, magnesium, and calcium. Now, electrolytes are ions that dissolve in our bodies, they dissolve in our cells, and we rely on the electrolytes to maintain membrane potentials. So every cell creates and generates a membrane potential where we have more electrolytes on one side than the other, and we can use that to do work like move things across the membrane. Also, we need electrolytes for things like sending nerve signals. In fact, whenever you send a signal from your brain to wherever part of your body, you're sending an electrical signal down the axon of that nerve, and that has to do with changes in electrolytes. Muscle contractions, another one that relies on calcium. You release calcium into the cytoplasm of the cell, and that causes the muscle to contract. And when you remove calcium outside of the cytoplasm and pump it back into where it's stored, then that will cause the muscle to relax. So electrolytes are incredibly important for those functioning of our cellular level and for animals to conduct nerves, impulses, and also for muscle contraction. Okay, there were some other questions I had here. How are scientists so sure that our universe started with the Big Bang? Have they been able to fully prove the theory? If not, will they be able to? Well, so there's a couple things here about that. We're pretty sure the universe started with the Big Bang. So we took all these observations of, when you look out into the universe, you see that the galaxies are moving away from us. But if you go backwards in time, that means that the galaxies are getting closer together. Well, one way to explain that is an expanding universe. So if the universe is expanding going forward, run the clock backwards, it's contracting, run it back far enough, and it starts at a single point in time as a Big Bang. We also have other information, other observations that the universe began at the Big Bang, including the cosmic microwave background radiation. We can actually detect the leftover energy from the Big Bang. Now, next thing is a theory. Now, theories are broad, powerful explanations to explain how something works. That's different from a fact. We can prove facts, like we can say the Earth is round. Well, I can circumnavigate. I can go around the world and show that it's round. I can launch a satellite up into the space and see that it's round. So that's a fact. We can prove that. Theories are explanations, and some theories are proven and some, well, they're supported by the evidence. And when it comes to something like the Big Bang, all the evidence supports that the universe began about 13.7 billion years ago. It's a very tiny point that it rapidly expanded, and we have no other data to disprove the Big Bang or any other information that would come up with an alternate theory. Okay, actually, so how do we know how many covalent bonds an element will form? I know it depends on the valence electrons, but how do we know how many electron shells an element will have? That's a fantastic question. And basically, I don't have a periodic chart on me, but if you ever look at your periodic table, I'm going to pull one up on the line online here, and we can look at how it's structured. The periodic table of elements. We're going to get lots and lots of images here for that. And we can pull up, this is a chart right here, the periodic table. So this is row 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this has one set of electrons. So it's got one electron shell. So these will have hydrogen, helium, have one electron shell. So they're going to have two valence electrons. Then you get to like carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. This is in row 2. And they're going to have a second electron shell, and that second electron shell will hold up to 8 electrons. Okay? Now what that means is carbon is going to have this element number 6. Carbon will have basically 4 valence electrons, and in that second row, you need a total of 8 to be stable. So carbon, with its 4 valence electrons, will need to share 4 electrons, so it can make 4 covalent bonds. And as we go to the right, nitrogen is element number 7. That means it's got 2 electrons in its inner shell, 5 electrons in its second shell, so it needs 3 electrons to complete its valence shell. So it will form 3 covalent bonds. And then, I hope I'm not getting everybody dizzy here, oxygen is element number 8 right there. And as element number 8, it has 6 valence electrons, and it can form 2 covalent bonds. And then hydrogen has only 1 electron, but it needs 2 to complete its shell, so it'll only have 1 covalent bond. So I hope that helps explain that. That's a good question, Ashley. Okay, if anybody else has another question, go for it. In the meantime, let's talk about this. There was a, why do electrons revolve around the nucleus? What causes that? That's a good question for quantum physics. But basically, they're negatively charged, and they're not actually rotating or revolving around the nucleus. They're found in what's called electron shells, and specifically within those shells, they're found in orbitals, which are wave function probabilities. They're probabilities of where you might find that electron. So they're not really like planets orbiting the sun. What evidence do we really have to determine if the world was really created by the Big Bang? Well, for instance, we know that the universe was created by the Big Bang, but our world, we are a second or third generation star system that was created after older star systems lived and died and exploded. And when they exploded, and previous to that, they created a bunch of other elements like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and those elements went on to go form our planet. Okay, what type of bond, ionic or covalent, forms between nitrogen and oxygen? That would be a polar covalent bond because oxygen is more electronegative than nitrogen. Okay, well, let's see if anybody else has any other questions coming in. All right, well, I made this time available for everybody to come online and shoot me with some questions. I got one in here, answered a couple on the pack back. There was one other I was gonna get up to here. Let's see. Okay. What do you believe are the key ingredients to life? That's a really good question here. Basically, the key ingredients to life are you need to have certain elements: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. Those are the foremost and basic elements of all of our living organisms. So 96% of what you are is made up of those 4 elements, plus some sodium, potassium, chlorine, iron, magnesium that are used for electrolytes and as metal catalysts. Then other than that, you need some water and you need a medium for all these organic molecules to form. So that's basically the ingredients of life. You need a watery medium. You need these elements that will combine to form different molecules and some type of way to get those molecules to stick to each other. Okay. All right. Well, good luck over the weekend on your test. Don't forget to take it sooner than later, but it will be up through Sunday night. And like I said, the part that gives everybody the most difficulty is understand the chemistry part, the covalent bonds, and understand the difference between polar and nonpolar covalent bonds and ionic bonds. And you're going to really need to know that for test 2. So make sure you study this stuff well. And I look forward to seeing how you do on the test over the weekend.